Hello and welcome to Our Art Therapy Life. My name is Catherine. I'm an art therapist and collage artist and founder of Cutout Collage.
I'm Jen, a Canadian art therapist, the founder of Belly Eye Art Therapy.
And welcome.
Welcome. And don't forget, if you're listening along, we have some extra goodies and goodies at our Patreon account. So don't forget to subscribe to that.
Thank you, Jen.
And yeah.
So how are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling a bit frazzled. So actually I was thinking about this as I was setting up because this is the third location that you guys are going to be seeing me in if you're watching on YouTube.
You're literally on tour.
Yeah, but I was also thinking into come with me on tour of my house. But I was thinking in terms of authenticity, because today we're going to be talking about authenticity. And I kind of want some feedback. I mean, if you guys are watching from YouTube, how does it make you feel seeing my space constantly shift versus yours that is very static and you know what to expect? Does it elicit any feelings? Does it bring up anything? Because I'm curious, is there a sense of maybe instability or fear because I'm constantly changing? What is that bringing up? I don't know if that's too deep for everyone, but I'm really curious. This is how our brains work.
I love that. You're such a therapist. I can't even deal with it. It's so good. So full disclosure, I've just been shown some clips from some of the editing of the YouTube and of the podcast, and it's knocked my socks off a bit and my brain off. My brain just has fallen off. So maybe this is a perfect time to discuss authenticity because me, when I'm processing something, I'm usually just my brain just goes to liquid. So this is a proper good demonstration of me when my brain is full. But authenticity, this is a big one for me. How do you feel about the word and the whole existence of authenticity?
Oh, I love it. Because I like pushing the parameters around what authenticity means in our field.
Wow.
I feel like I'm very outside of the box.
Totally. I think we both have because we're both setting up these businesses that are still young and also super experimental. I feel like authenticity has been something it's been at the forefront of everything so far in the sense that I'm kind of trying to engage with it and grow in it all the time because anyway, we can start going into what it means to us individually. But this is a big one for me. It feels like it's kind of vulnerable because...
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, so it feels... I made classic me when I'm feeling anxious about something. I've got the notes highlighted in different colors.
Oh, amazing. You know me, I love a good highlighted book and tagged and then subnotes.
Yeah, I think because I know what I often want to say about things, but then I just have this panic that I'm gonna forget something. I think that's a whole part of this conversation as well, is that kind of the fear that comes with kind of doing something well is massively wrapped up in authenticity for me. So shall I start with what I found when I Googled the word?
Yeah.
Webster's dictionary defines honesty. Every best man speech across the world that is rubbish starts with a Webster's dictionary quote. So the main thing I saw when I Googled it, just a couple of words stood out to me. So not false or copied, genuine and real. And there was lots of other kind of terms and ways of using it too. But those words really stood out for me. And I underlined in my book with 2 lines, not copied. Because that feels huge for me in what I kind of want to talk about a bit later with authenticity. But I'd love to hear what you think about it because I feel like I quite often ask you to summarize things for me and you say it in a really good way. Oh, she's frozen.
Oh, sorry, I lost you for a minute. I heard bits of that.
That's okay. I thought you were like super intently listening to me because you were like staring. I was like, wow, she is listening so hard. I was like, wow, so respectful.
It's so funny. It's so funny. On my end, I was like still trying to stay really still because I'm like, okay, if I come back on, she needs to feel like I'm still listening.
I am obsessed with how this is going. Can I just say that? Okay, my laugh's really loud. Calm down. So basically, Where did we get up to? I said not copied. Did you hear that bit?
That was like
Cool.
underlined, period, exclamation. And I was
Not
like,
copied.
yes, say more. And then it froze.
Maybe it was too big of a mic drop that Zoom was like, hang on, let's just have a minute and then we'll catch up.
We're being monitored. We're sharing too real.
Oh my gosh. The real police are like, these guys, shut them down. So I basically just went on a spiel about how I really want you to tell me what you think about it because you summarize things really well.
Oh, thanks.
And I feel like I often text you about something like, have you ever thought about this? Or do you ever do this? And you send me back these really well thought out and just really compassionate responses. And they help my brain understand things a lot better. So I feel like you'd be a good place to start with.
Thank you. I think for me, like when I'm talking about authenticity with clients, I always get them to check into like their body. Right. And see how they feel like when they hear that word to start. And then also, what does it feel like if you were living your totally, completely authentic life? How does that shift? How do you feel that differently in your body? And it's a lot about just being so completely yourself in all ways, even if it's super messy, but just in all ways, and not waiting for someone to give you permission for that part of yourself or all of yourself.
It's so funny when you said that word permission. I felt like a zip like in my body. It's because I was trying to do, that's such a nice idea. Like asking someone to feel it physically. I imagine that's quite powerful for people.
Yeah, because the work that I specialize in mostly is like emotional regulation and trauma-informed work. So it's about reconnecting to your body. And so if we've been traumatized around being authentic, there's not going to be an actual connection between the mind and the body. And so your mind is still, even if it's subconsciously processing, it's like assessing, okay, what does authentic look like to other people? How do I fit into that? How is it safe to be authentic? Versus your body's like, no. We're freaking weirdos and we're over here and we want to feel this way. And it's amazing.
I love that. That disconnect is so real for people, isn't it? It's so common.
Yeah, we just want to feel safe. And so we're constantly assessing instead of like being.
I think that's like something that's obviously been around forever, but I feel it's a real kind of curse of our times. It's this kind of ability or lack thereof to see things through your own eyes and through your own self. Like it has to be kind of through the lens of like someone else's perspective, or you have to like look through someone to see yourself. You can't like kind of just do it. It's such a big one, especially like,
oh my gosh,
with some work I've done before with people who are especially like early 20s, I feel. It's this huge pressured time to either have it all figured out or to be so unique that you end up having these like cookie cutter unique people. Where the word unique is just, I mean, it's superfluous. It means nothing anymore because anyway, that's like, I'm going to start a big spiel in a minute, so I don't want to get onto it too before I like that. I feel so much for that age group. Not long being out. Well, I'm 31. Probably by the time this comes out, I'll be 31, but I'm 31 very soon. So I'm out of my 20s now, but I feel for that age group around this area because I think some people have a strong grip of who they are, but there's not very many of those people because the pressure is so intense.
Oh my gosh. And from different systems too, like so many different systems.
Totally. I think like, how do you feel about this? So I feel like you can't have a conversation about authenticity as a person, as a therapist, as someone that owns a business, especially I think for me as someone that owns a business, without talking about this fear of scarcity that is in the world.
Ooh. Okay, that's interesting. I would love to hear more about that because that sounds really great.
I hope it is. I hope it's not just me going on spiel. I think there's something, especially I've experienced this in kind of our field of art therapy and in kind of, alternative jobs, that fear there's some truth to it. There isn't a ton of, art therapy jobs, or if you're carving a new path, there isn't a ton of other things ahead of you, or if anything ahead of you because you're doing something new. And there's this huge fear that can kind of come on us as individuals or as a whole field of professionals that there isn't going to be enough of something. And that we have to hold on super tightly to what we have, or notice or try and kind of mold what we're doing on what's had success elsewhere.
Yeah.
So how this links into authenticity for me is, so I get a lot of people that come to workshops who sit in and they're teachers or creative professionals or whatever, and they'll ask me, and some of them just tell me outright, I'm here because I want to run creative workshops and I want to see how yours work or whatever.
Right.
And I've had a few people come up to me, along the way and say, aren't you afraid of like people just, watching your, like taking your stuff and going? And at first I remember really battling with this because I genuinely didn't feel worried about it, but I didn't really understand how to articulate that.
Right.
And over time, I sort of worked on it in my own mind. And I thought, you know what? I didn't invent collage. I didn't invent art therapy.
Yeah.
I didn't invent these things. I'm passionate about them and I love them and I practice them and I share them with people. People can come and take my session plans. People can come and take my exercises if they want. That's actually that's not the secret ingredient that's in my spaces. It's me. They can literally record me and say it verbatim and it still won't be the same.
Totally.
It's me. That's the flavor. And that's, you put salt on something, you're that, you have that within you as an individual, this ability to have this unique flavoring to things. And I think one that clicked in my brain, and I remember thinking, no one can be me as much as I can. And it sounds like a bit, eat, pray, love or whatever. And a bit like, but it's true. And
it's so true.
And I started to kind of investigate this flavor that I have and who I am and what about it. Because some people really attach to it. Some people love it in the space because I'm loud. I have an energy. I've got absolutely endless enthusiasm for certain subjects. Some people don't respond to that and they need to go to someone perhaps who's maybe got a quieter approach or something different.
Absolutely.
And that's not a direct slight on me. They just need a different seasoning on their food. And that's okay.
Totally.
As long as I'm keeping a record and a bit of a reflection space about how I've been and what feedback I get and welcoming that feedback and allowing the stuff that comes through that doesn't always feel so good. Or, sometimes people, think it's okay.
Yep,
and sort of how do you swallow that? And so if you're kind of engaged in this process of understanding kind of your ingredients, I don't know why everything is a food metaphor. Am I hungry?
I love that. I love it. It's perfect.
But there's something about that. And I think once I started to get a grip of that, the fear of the scarcity that had been weaved and into, I think, right actually from my training. I love my training. I have a lot of respect for it. But there was a lot of lectures even where I was told that it would be hard for me. Yeah. And I was told that there wouldn't be enough. And I think if any, it didn't, some people, it makes them afraid and they try and imitate what's come before so that they end up not failing. And I just, all it did for me is lit a fire under me and made me a maniac and made me invent a job. But I think that's the sort of long way around explaining what I think.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, well,
even as you were talking, I was like, that would be an incredible art directive to do for people. I'm just thinking, this is how my brain's working. It's like even going into corporate settings and how it feels very rigid and cookie cuttered, but then talking about what seasoning are you? What is this flavor you're bringing? And then creating art around that. And how does that look? And then looking at everyone's seasoning that they're bringing to this table.
Oh, I love it.
That's great.
There's something about people not being afraid of their actual uniqueness.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
That's big for me.
But I think you also said something too, that it's a lot safer to kind of walk in the exact footsteps of someone that has done it before you. Because like you're watching them, you've seen them not fail, what looks like on the surface. And so I get it. Like you want to be safe. Like as human beings, that's like our innateness is to feel safe on some level. So I know too, like I do it too sometimes where I'm like looking around at other art therapists and I'm like, okay, well they did this and this is really successful. And then I try and do it and it doesn't fit because it's not me. It's so not me. And then I end up failing anyways. So it's like redirecting me. I feel like I'm constantly being redirected back to my authenticity anyways, even if I try and copy someone else or like follow in their footsteps.
And it's human nature, isn't it? Research is good. So I'm not kind of dismissing that we look at other people and learn from them because research is great, but it's understanding how things fit into you and also how you could evolve something or the big thing for me is, because I think there's a lot of spaces where people tell you to be or your authentic self, but then they don't tell you in any way how to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
like, do you ever, like, maybe we could talk about that a little bit. What do you think? Like, how do you even start
Yes.
with learning about who you actually are and what you actually bring to your life and the world and, you know, everything that's around you? Big question. If you could just answer that, please. Any
And go.
ideas for how to make the world authentic?
That's such a hard question because I feel maybe this is like my own biases too. Is like the world wants you to be authentic. People want you to be authentic until you're authentic, and then you don't fit into the authentic box.
Yeah, right.
And then you can be punished for it. And so I want to be really mindful of not to like project my stuff, because I went through an experience like that where it felt very welcoming and it felt very safe to be authentically myself. And then I was, and then it was very, very damaging. And it was just, it led very quickly to burnout, like very quickly. And like, I was
This
not
is
okay
helpful.
physically. I was not okay mentally. I ended up leaving the job because that was kind of the core of everything. Like the job was a very intensive job anyways, working with trauma and addiction, but like not being able to be authentic on top of that was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Wow.
And so I think based on my experiences, this might not be for everyone, but I think in order to be authentic, and I don't want to like, okay, for me, it's about feeling safe before just like jumping into the authenticity. And then I don't want to say that to like kind of mute people's authenticity or be like, no, like test the waters first, then be authentic. Like I don't want it to be like that. But I think the safety comes from within first. Because I think that was the piece that I was lacking to like truly stand in my authenticity and not just be so shattered from the punishment, was that I didn't have the internal safety and the internal trust within myself that I needed to hold my authenticity.
Wow.
Because looking back on it, had I been like the version I am now after doing all this self-work since leaving that job, my actions and the outcome would have been very different. Like I'm sure I would have left months before I let it go on that long. But it comes down to safety and trust, but it's not an external safety and trust, it's an internal safety and trust. So I feel like it comes down to just building that up internally and really having a solid foundation.
That makes so much sense, because it's like so many of these kind of life lessons and truths that we learn along the way, isn't it? That you have to sort of build something inside. And we talk to clients about that so much. And
yes,
it's something that comes up a lot of work I've done in prisons, where people are in groups quite often just kind of talking about their lives and what other people kind of want them to be or to be like. And the conversation goes there so often. It's just like, well, how do you sort of start with some of that? Maybe healing's not the word. It's just sort of looking inward and learning how to have your own kind of internal structure of kind of what do you want to be like, and asking people to, that's a big one for me. It's a kind of, how do you help people in therapy? And I've done it for myself as a sort of, as I've gone along this process of being an entrepreneur, of asking myself these questions, because we don't really get a lot of opportunities in life to just really think about how we feel about things. Even though we kind of feel emotions and responses and reactions, I think there's something about that, like taking time to actually kind of interview yourself a bit. Sounds a bit silly, but it works for me really well.
For sure.
Like so even for me, a lot of stuff falls into the box of like, I always look at professional stuff first. And a big part of my authenticity journey is sort of understanding who I am outside of my job. So I think to actually be kind of able to deliver in that space, I've had to learn kind of how to be, what's that word? It's on the tip of my tongue. When you're like the same in different spaces.
Like differentiated?
Maybe consistent, or like integrated. When you're kind of something about your life that's sort of, things are not hugely, obviously you have a slightly different way of being with certain groups. Sometimes like some people give you an energy that other people don't, that helps you kind of be hyper or helps you sort of feel calm or whatever. But I wanted to work on how to have some some consistency and integration across.
Totally.
So that's
Totally.
been, and I think
Like the
that comes back
word,
to what you've said.
yes, like the word that comes to mind is autonomy.
Oh, yeah, which is
Like
so
just
good.
having autonomy over yourself. Yeah.
Physical and emotional and everything.
Yes.
I can really see
And
that
so,
visually.
yes. So this is like kind of what I wanted to explore too today was like, this is like the perfect segue into that is how does that branch and how does that bridge over into our practices? Like, is there a line of being too authentic or not authentic enough? Like,
Wow.
because we talk about, I know in my program, we talked about how instead of wearing separate hats all the time, you
Yeah.
should be the same person in and out of your practice. And so, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
It's massive, isn't it? Because I think we can talk about it from our own perspectives, I guess, from working in different environments. But I
Totally.
found in different spaces, the thing that I'm always trying to make sure that I am is that I'm Catherine is recognizably Catherine. So like I make silly dad jokes and I'm a bit kind of like, especially if I'm meeting someone for the first time, I sort of want to put them at ease and comedy comes into that. Or my poor attempt at comedy. And so some parts of me feel okay to be in different spaces, but I think having done some work in the community and also in like, quite intense, secure environments, there's different rules and expectations of institutions around you. And that's made some things really hard because I think it's been a process of finding a way to be aligned in myself to my practice and with the people I'm working with and feel like I'm being what what I need to be in that space as a professional. But certain places have different rules, and kind of what I've started to do is sort of set myself and understand and work on it in supervision is getting this sense of what my boundaries are as me and how that can be in different environments and not shift too much. So for example, in prisons you cannot hug people generally.
Right.
That's not a thing,
Right.
or that's what, especially as therapists, most of them don't. Some of my working communities, sometimes patients and have done that, and I just have to decide in myself, okay, this environment is changing something about the way I have to physically be with other people. What am I going to choose? Am I going to choose to stay with my boundary, or am I going to change it? And I know it's sort of a really small example, but I think it's that process of sort
Totally.
of like we've talked about, it's kind of assessing, but actually, taking some time to think about it in advance, so I'm not kind of thrown off, and that helps me settle into a space when I kind of have a think about what I need to be safe, but then how it fits with my boundaries, and then also how the things that make me as a therapist and as a creative practitioner and as an art sort of teacher or whatever, is that my personality is there, and that doesn't, certain people get it and certain people don't. I would never want it to be that way.
Yeah,
I don't know where I've
absolutely.
gone, but I feel like I've gone somewhere. What do you think about
Yes,
it?
yes, totally. Even as you were speaking, I was thinking of a directive that I do often with like families or groups, and it's you draw yourself as a house. So if you were a house, what would you look like? And then so you get to choose in all ways and all metaphors. And then the second step is, what does your fence look like? Is there a fence? Is it an electric fence? Is it a gate? Is it a moat? Is there armed forces on it? What does it look like? And so as you were talking, I was like, okay, yeah, totally. Like my house would be the exact same in every situation, but my fence might change. My fence might have a gate. Maybe I'll have a lock on it. Maybe there'll be an extra dog in the yard, just to be there. Maybe,
Love that.
these fences are going to change in every situation, but the house itself is going to stay the same. So like that helped put everything into perspective for me too. So I really appreciate that.
That makes so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I was trying to explain something and then you just explained it. That's so
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
such a nice visual, because I think you're right. There's, so much about it is the core is there, but
Yeah.
maybe the layers in between people have to be slightly different.
Yeah.
The way you are with your family is different to the way you are with someone in one-to-one therapy, obviously.
Yes, totally. And you've established more of a relationship. So maybe with your family, you don't need the fence at all. You just like have the garden there, and you know that those boundaries are just going to be respected because you've built up that relationship.
Sure. And it's, and there's certain things that are allowed, and there's
Yeah. Yeah.
restrictions and,
Mm-hmm.
appropriate behavior and all the things that come with professionalism too. And I
Totally.
think it's sort of not losing yourself, isn't it? And when the spaces change and the environments change and the expectations change or the client groups change, because even in one prison, there's, many different wings with many different kind of levels of not always many different, but there are a few different levels of security in places, you know, like
Totally.
so how do you keep yourself in all that? And I think that's what I wrote something down about. It makes me think a lot about this sort of, the words not copied just like won't leave my brain. And I think I was thinking a lot about younger people, just because in kind of a job that I've had recently alongside Cutout, just kind of has made me think, just because it's been more young people, and it just made me think about kind of the history of work that I've done when it has been with younger people, and just this complete fear of what did I write the words? I wrote it down because I knew my brain would do this. Yeah, it's this kind of, it's a generation of people looking outwards and imitating with this kind of desperation to find their place. And it's sort of finding it through other people's displays and other people's kind of ways of being. And it kind of, if there's lots of people doing that, then kind of nothing is that real. It all sort of starts to become this whirlpool of sameness and repeatedness and heightened expectation, because nothing's kind of satisfying anymore, because there's just lots of the same. And the more you kind of get to know someone underneath that, you see this kind of beauty and sort of real magnificence that everyone has inside them. I think everyone has that really big piece of them that is magnificent, that
Totally.
I really just think that people only assume looks a few ways, like beautiful, thin, or smart in school. That's like what so many people, or has the ability to have a mortgage by 30, which, by the way, newsflash, isn't possible. And it's just, that's just so limiting. I just want to throw, no, I don't want to throw a bomb, that's the wrong phrase. But you know what I mean? Just like explode this conception that, I mean, how can the complexity of the world be in 4 categories that are also like, just, if that, I don't want to just be that. Because actually, and also this is the idea that beauty and thinness are the only things that's just
oh my God,
the media making one thing acceptable.
Yeah, I know.
Beauty is every single person in their own individual. Authenticity, if you want to make beauty one thing, it's authenticity. That's what it is. And
totally
self-acceptance that comes within that. That's beauty. Why are we, okay, we've moved into a different space and I love it.
But that's the thing though, like if, like I know when I look around at my friends, the people that are truly, truly authentic, I'm just automatically kind of like magnetized towards them. Totally. Like I just want to be around them. I want to spend more time with them. And
totally,
I don't know what it is, but there's just something so attractive and alluring about that authenticity. And I just want to be around them so much, because it's also like a really safe space for me to also be authentic. And I just want to like pour so much more into that, because they're like an amazing person, and then I can be myself. And I don't want to put pressure on other people for that. Totally. But there's just something that's like really attracting. And it works both ways too. Like I know when I've been my most authentic self, I've noticed people gravitate towards me, and I've had really healthy, beautiful relationships. Like even when I've traveled and I've been so authentic. It's interesting. Like I just noticed that kind of pull in a really cool way.
And I noticed I have one friend who you've met actually, and she's from Australia, and she asks a lot of questions in life, and she always worries that she always asks too much. And I think actually what she's doing is she is acting out what it is to learn about yourself by kind of questioning and being curious. And I think that's a really great way to figure out how to be kind of true to yourself in the world, in a way, like you say, where you're kind of doing it so that you make sure that you stay safe and other people stay safe. Like you sort of investigate how that space feels, or these parts of yourself that you've not explored before, how you do that in a way. And she does that a lot just by asking questions and hearing people's responses, and then also being in relationship with people where she can give her own and get some feedback. And that curiosity, totally. I think she is one of the most authentic people I know, because there's an honesty in there, but there's also this kind of deep curiosity about the world. And I think that is kind of, it's hugely vulnerable, because you sometimes put yourself out on a limb and you can embarrass yourself by asking something that people, might think you should know or might disagree with you on, but she's very respectful and doesn't go out of her. She would never put herself in a space where she would be disrespectful to others. She's just really curious. And I've learned a lot from watching her be like that.
And you can feel it. You can feel when it's genuine. I think that's the biggest piece too, is like, people can be like that, but you can feel when it's disingenuous and there's kind of like subconscious, maybe ulterior motives behind it. Not necessarily ulterior motives, but there's just other stuff below it. And it might just be like some broken, crispy pieces that maybe they haven't sat with just yet. But when someone is like so genuine, like you can feel it.
Yeah.
You just know.
Like what? I think the biggest thing, I remember listening to this on another podcast, like someone saying what fires you up? Like what lights you on fire? Like what is that? And I know there is like, collage has a nicheness to it, but like I will never stop loving it. So it makes sense to lean into that. Lean into those things. I love working in prisons. So I'm just going to keep leaning into it until it leads to the next thing, or I end up being in it forever. Who knows? It's sort of just like there's something about that that's really helping me learn how to like understand my gut, my responses, investigate things safe. All of that is just like, obviously stay safe. If you're into some like super unsafe things, maybe like speak to a professional as well. But like, you know, if there's things that really like you can't let go of them, it's either a process of learning how they need to be out of your life, or if they're still there, maybe there's some unfinished business in it and you just need to like lean in.
Oh, this is making me emotional.
Oh, Jen.
So like in the best kind of way though, because it's like hearing you talk about collage and prison work, and it's just a different kind of passion, and you can see it, and there's just like a different kind of energy around it that is so beautiful, and is my absolute favorite thing in meeting humans that have found a passion or are chasing a passion. There's just something so beautiful about it, and it literally is like my favorite thing in the entire world. And even like traveling, finding more like-minded people that aren't afraid of chasing those passions, no matter how scary they feel. And like for me, that's authenticity. And
so
seeing
good.
that in another human being is just so beautiful. And I don't have any other words to explain it. I need art. I need to make art about this. So
I feel like you've just made me think of something which has helped me a lot, and I didn't even realize it until you're such an epiphany person for me. You say something, I'm like, bing. I love testimony from people. I love hearing about people's like passion projects and their dreams. One of my friends actually laughs at me because she's like, Catherine, you like get 3 coffees in with someone and then you're like, tell me your dreams. And it's really weird. But I'm like, no, I love hearing about it, because there is nothing more attractive or interesting or like for me than watching someone speak about their dreams. And if you're not sure where to start in your journey to kind of learning about yourself and feeling kind of that you're living in this like an embodied way that feels integrated, ask other people about their dreams, because when you see that light in someone that's not, like you say, it's genuine, it's like, I want to have that. I want a bit of that. How do I get it? And the more you hear more about people's dreams, then you start to get curious about your own. Everyone deserves to live a life with that flicker. Everyone. Everyone.
Yes. I think that's, I don't know if this is kind of sad, but I don't know if I've seen a lot of it. And so when you do see it, it just feels like so incredible to see that in another human being. Because I think that's like why you and I are friends, is because we share that mutually. Like we're so like, we're just taking risks all the time and doing all these things, but it's always chasing some sort of passion. And like, I know how incredible it feels. And so I want everyone to feel that.
Totally. And it can be the fact that you're looking for it can be your flicker. Like it's not that you have to have it figured out completely. Like,
thank you. Yeah,
I felt this for years, this idea of kind of wanting to create something. And that's been the passion until I started to sort of start piece. Even now, it's only a few pieces of a much bigger kind of puzzle that's going to come together. But the fire for me is that I'm engaged in it. So it doesn't have to be this kind of completed. I mean, I feel like it probably will never be full. Like the jigsaw will never be fully completed, but just more and more pieces will kind of come as they're meant to. And seeking that and being engaged in that and learning how to do it in a way that isn't, you know, that the pursuit of authenticity can make you a bit burned out, like you said earlier. So it's good to like, I feel like I've got this journey of learning about myself and learning how to, within that, learning how to like rest properly.
Yes.
That's kind of, because doing that work is tiring, right?
Absolutely. And I also want to like offer a disclaimer because a lot of times when I say stuff like this, people are like, oh, so she's judging me because I'm not traveling the whole world. I'm not like on 1,000 projects on a weekly basis. And so I want to just like offer a disclaimer like, no, I have friends who like their passion is to start a family.
Yeah, that's
To
true.
like have
Yeah.
their beautiful home
Mm.
and like design it the way they want to.
Mm.
You know, like that kind of stuff too is so insanely beautiful. And
Mm.
it doesn't have, just because like our lives are a bit broader in the sense, doesn't mean that like, that's the only way for it to look. And I promise you in no way is there judgment. It's just
That's a good
that feeling,
disclaimer.
however it like translates,
Mm.
is just so gorgeous. And it's
Totally.
an amazing field and however that translates.
Totally. Being, yeah, like I think both of us, that's our, like you say, that's our connection, isn't it? Our purpose in terms of
Yeah.
how our life and our work are kind of sort of
Mm-hmm.
becoming this sort of overlapped thing, of this kind of pursuit of creating and being creative and that kind of thing is our
Yeah.
driver. But people have so many different ones. The best thing, I mean, you see I've met some people that like wanted to, you know, come out of a period of being in a secure space and sustain a life and not have to rely on like services anymore, and not have to go back to prison, or being able to actually create a life where they work and live and afford it and take care of
Yeah.
themselves and can reconnect with either children or potentially plan to meet someone and have children and
Mm.
actually build a life where they feel that they want that. And that's their flicker. And yeah, like you
Yes.
say, and
Yeah.
some people's flickers are like totally bonkers, weird things. And it's so awesome when people talk about things you've never even
Oh,
heard of,
it's
like
so
insane,
good.
weird projects. So I'm like, that is
It's
awesome.
so
Or
good.
they're like, I met someone once who loved trains, everything about them, everything,
Mm.
the look, where they could go and see them, how they could log it, how they've got these catalogs, that was their flicker. And it was awesome. It was awesome watching them talk about it because I
Oh,
could see they were
wow.
like giddy with it. It was the
Yeah.
best.
Yes.
Have we got any artwork today? I've just realized,
Yeah.
as
Oh,
in the
yeah.
words of art therapists, I'm conscious of the time. I say that all the time
And
to people when they've like start opening up at 2 minutes to go. I'm like, I'm conscious of the time. I want to keep you safe, but also we have like 5 minutes.
I,
10 minutes. Yes.
oh,
Awesome.
I mean,
Take your time, babe.
this is our third episode, so people know us by now and that we like to.
Welcome. I'm trying to keep it under an hour, but we've done it so far. I'm proud of us.
Okay, so for me, my personal authenticity is being like really messy and just being out there. And I've been criticized for it a lot in the past for being too loud, too this, too big, like shh, shh, shh. Like you're being too much right now. I need you to calm it down. And it's been so damaging. But like when I feel my most authentic self, I am messy. I am out there. I talk a lot. I take up space. It's fine.
That's it. Come on.
And so it's like really interesting. My art actually has shown up in older pieces I noticed, which I was like, ooh, I'm noticing a pattern. But it's very loud, very out there.
I love it. Ooh. I love your work because it's like we are such different styles. I love it.
I don't know.
Talk me through it.
So when I was making this, my entire desk was like full of art materials. And I was like, yes, I need all of them. But the quote that came up as I was making this was, I might be too much for some, but if that's the case, go find less.
Oh, come on now.
Boom.
Mic drop. Everyone leaves the studio. Amazing.
Okay, get out. No, I was kidding.
That's it. I'll just no, I won't trash the place. It's very expensive. No, that's amazing. I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love the color. The use of color in your work always is something that I'm really drawn to because I don't naturally make that way.
I noticed too, like as I was making it, I was like, is this too much for the show? Is this too much? And then I was like, this is what we're talking about.
That is wild.
Go for it.
I love that. I love I felt like when I was looking at it was like looking into, so just for kind of, we'll put descriptions kind of down below, but the kind of most of the A4 page is it red and purple? Like it's
like a lot of colors.
Like starts with a circle and then it's kind of gone out into these.
It's like hot pink.
Is it wax? Is it crayon or?
It's like like an oil
Oil pastel.
marker, kind of, but it's like
Ooh.
the next level up to that. I
Oh
don't
my
know how to
gosh.
explain it.
I love it. And it's
Plus, there's like crayons and markers, and then also watercolor.
I love that. So many like mixed mediums, and then the sun kind of in the top-ish right.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's actually, you know what I feel like? I feel like I'm inside something, and that's like if
Mm-hmm.
you were like a bird in a tree and that's the hole to get out, I feel like
Yeah.
that's what it looks like when I look at it.
Ooh.
Something about that.
Interesting. Okay.
But
Okay.
it's
I'm gonna do some
loud.
writing around it.
It's
Yeah.
loud and it's a lot. And I think I love that you had that thought as you were making it. That's wild. Not to like,
Always
yeah,
learning, always reflecting.
not to ruin next week, but we are going to jump deep into the art next time. And I can't
Yes.
wait.
Yes. I know, me
I'm
too.
like nervous, but I can't wait. Um,
Okay.
so I think the biggest thing I've been learning about is as I'm being curious, like trying to practice this curiosity that I sort of saw in my friend, I've realized more and more that I am so tired. That I have
Mm,
been, I think, hashtag vulnerable moment. It's not an
hmm.
overshare, I promise. I have been tired for many years because I don't stop. It's my coping, it's my also my natural temperament is quite kind of energetic. So
Hmm.
it's not like a purely, what are you running from? Big, deep things. It's actually a natural way that I am is incredibly like engaged and especially around certain specialist like certain subjects that I love. But I definitely like use busyness as a way of kind of just managing as well. So my piece, I don't know how you can
Mm,
if you can see, but um
yes.
it's just this kind of the head on the plinth is the piece of art, and then someone has it's actually just one image. So um I didn't actually collage them together. They were already together. So it's like a
Oh,
performance
wow.
artist, I think, who has leant behind the head that's leaning on the plinth. And I just wrote, I'm so tired around it. Um, and the page being kind of has been quite blank felt really
Yeah.
important because there's something about in me learning how to kind of lean in more and produce more and like be a better therapist and be more available for the people that the whole business has been set up to serve. I need to
Hmm.
I need to rest better. And
Wow.
that's been a huge thing that's been blocking my kind of ability to integrate anything is so I think that's another part of this journey that's important to bring up is that as you learn more about yourself, you learn the great things, the not so great things, or some of the things that maybe just aren't that helpful.
Hmm.
So I don't think
Yeah.
because I wouldn't want to if I wasn't busy at all, I wouldn't be being authentic either.
Right. Yeah.
Because
Right.
projects they excite me. I love the idea of being like on. I just got to
Hmm.
learn to use it as a superpower instead of like a weapon on self destruct. It's got to be,
Right. Right.
and that's a huge part. Like that's the vulnerable, I think, part of doing this investigation, if you like, or this kind of training.
Totally.
Um, but yeah, I feel like our pieces next to each other. It's like so kind
They
of
complement
full.
each other.
They do. I feel like I love how art speaks to each other. I think there's
Hold on,
something
let me
about
find
that
it.
kind of. I'm looking at mine and looking at yours.
And then yours?
Well, there's like this,
Yeah.
like little round circle of yellow of gold, and so is yours,
Mm.
and I like that. I think there's something kind of.
Oh my gosh. I'm
Mm,
kind of thinking like if you went into the head of your image, is this how
mm,
it would look on the inside?
that's like an eye. Oh my gosh, I love that. So that's kind of like that's inside the face of him.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, come on now. That makes sense because that red is tiring to look at in a way, like
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
intensity, but kind of,
Mm.
but it's still in there. Like it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's in you. It's just kind of learning
But I
authenticity,
totally
flipping it.
connect to what you're saying too, because
Mm,
like I've experienced that burnout too. So I so connect. And for me, it feels more powerful having these two images coming together. Like that feels more what's happening within myself as well.
mm. It's a
Trying to
journey.
balance. Yeah.
I think that's the big thing that I also wrote, I think that word alignment, I said it before, something about when you start to investigate yourself and how you exist in the world and how you exist for other people and what you do for others and for yourself. There's something about this alignment that comes.
Mm.
And I actually feel that it's amazing. It's like when someone says like, oh, this scarf keeps me warm. And it's like, duh. It's like this rest is enabling me to do so much more than I could before. And I'm like,
totally.
Where was this like 16 years
Totally.
ago? But it's when you're ready to sort of start, it'll make you a better therapist. It'll make you a better business owner to get a bit into your stuff and investigate it a bit. And if you need to be in your own therapy while you're doing that, I think sometimes I know a heck of a lot of therapists who are struggling, who are like, oh, but I don't even want to go back to therapy just yet. And it's like, if you need the support, just go get it.
Yeah, totally.
We give it to other people. We need, like, you know.
We better be walking the walk, walking the talk, or whatever the saying is.
So do you have any final thoughts on authenticity before we wrap? Not actually wrap.
Oh my gosh. I think that it's okay to stumble along the way in finding your authenticity. And it's terrifying at times, and that's okay. In no way do I feel like I'm the epitome of authenticity. Like, it's still this trial and error, even like on my social media stuff. But it's fun. It's fun.
Totally.
Yeah. What about you?
It's a journey. I think I agree. I don't feel in any way complete, but I feel like at least I'm on the train as opposed to just being on the platform. Like I used to just be looking at this idea of what it could be. Because perfectionism is a massive barrier to authenticity in a lot of ways. So that's been a big struggle for me to sort of decide to not have to kind of rely so fully on what I should be doing or how I should appear. So it's an engaged process that will help you business-wise, life-wise, therapy-wise, if you can get engaged with it. And it just, when you're asking clients to do it, they might just buy it a bit more. If you're, because people can sense BS. Everyone, kids, everyone, they can just sense it when you're like, try doing this like really good, you know, whatever. And they can just see that in you, it's just like not a thing. You have to like, it will help. Like, I'm noticing that with people. Like now I'm actually trying some things out when I talk to people about stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't feel like I'm just asking someone to do what I say. I'm actually like I'm in the arena, as Brene Brown would say.
Yeah.
Like definitely not finished, but in progress of some description. But yeah, please,
Love
people, if you have stories of your own authenticity journey, just let us know. I love testimony. I'm sure Jenn does too.
Yep.
How are you getting on with this? It's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that's the end of our show today.
That's it. Do you feel tired? I'm tired.
Yeah, but it's like the middle of the day, so I still have like a full work day ahead of me.
That's it. I'm like ready for dinner in bed, and you're like, okay, work now.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Next. No, it's all good. It's all good. But just a reminder, don't forget to check out our Patreon account. We will have our artwork posted on Instagram as well for you to check out.
Amazing.
And
there's no pressure to support us, but if you want to, that would be amazing.
We would love it.
Thank you,
It helps
Jenn.
us. Yep. Thank you so much.
You're amazing, Jenn. As always.
Oh, so are you. Okay. Until next time, friends.
Until next
Trust
time.
the process.
Trust that process. Even if you don't want to.
Trust the process.